Welcome to Sormag's Writers Cafe, where we share the real writer's life over a cup of friendship, sprinkled with laughter and wisdom. My name is LaShonda Hoffman, and I'm your host. This episode is sponsored by Virtual Tea with LaShonda Promotion Strategy Session. Today's podcast is Indie Publishing Secrets. Our guests are T.L. James and Michelle Stevens. Thank you, ladies, for being our guests today.
Thank you for having us.
I would love for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into indie publishing. And we're going to start with T.L., please.
Okay. Thank you for having me. I always love the platforms that you provide, so I greatly appreciate you being here. And I think we've been together, since 2008, maybe even 2007, when I published my first book. I'm T.L. James. I'm the publisher of Fee Inc., Writing Solutions Firm, and we were founded in March of 2009. To date, we have published over 40 titles, and that sounds really small, but we are a publisher that want to create and foster and build strong authors more than just, publishing titles. So education is a big component of who we are and what we do and everything. And we are a big family. So when one publishes, it seems like everybody in our publishing house publishes. And so just building relationships is just one of the amazing things that we've done, and you are one of the amazing relationships that we've had. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I really admire what you've done with your business. I know we got some great tips coming from you. Michelle, you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me. I am Michelle Lynn Stevens, founder of Diva's Heart Publishing and Entertainment. I am delighted to be a #1 and 2-time AALBC bestselling author with Brown Girls Books. However, my journey began with self-publishing in 2012, and that remains the bulk of my publishing journey. And let me tell you, 8 years ago, when I was writing my manuscript for my debut novel, I'm sitting there reading writers' magazines and Barnes & Noble, clueless, like, how am I going to put this book out there? And I bought this big, thick 500-page book on self-publishing, not realizing it was from 2002, and that was rolling up on, 2010 then, and the landscape of publishing had completely flipped because Amazon had bought BookSurge and turned it into creative space, which I ended up learning how to use by myself, and that's how I ended up putting myself out there.
All right. Amazing. So my first question is, why did you choose to self-publish versus submitting to a big publisher? Let's start with Michelle.
All right. Just basically reading through the magazines and seeing that self-publishing was the new thing to do, and that traditional publishers had been basically, changing their not giving as much royalties and want you to basically do everything for yourself, have a platform, and just taking so long to put your stuff out there, and some of them want you to have an agent. And I actually was being mentored by Michelle Andrea Bowen, and she was just telling me how much it was changing the landscape. And I just said, I love to do research. I'm just going to go for it, and started reading up on it and put it out there in my time and on my terms.
T.L.? Did we lose her? Can you hear us, T.L.?
I'm sorry? Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. Why did you choose to self-publish versus submitting to a big publisher?
So when I started, I think it was in 6 and 7, I got over 100, I can't even remember because I've packed them up, but over 100 rejection letters. And it wasn't the rejection letter that were the form field ones, because it's like, okay, I know they didn't read it, so that's not bothering me. But it was the ones that actually took the time and, had 2 and 3 pages of why they wouldn't publish the book. And I think I was just ahead of my time for what I was writing at the time, because now I'm looking on TV and I'm like, well, my book is not as bad as this stuff that's on TV now.
What 3 pieces of advice would you give someone interested in starting their own publishing house? You want to go, TL?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that I would tell them, the person, is to look in the mirror and figure out what kind of person you are. So if you are one of those control freaks that's going to be on top of everything, go for it. Do it. Get as much information out there. Most of the information is free, but go out there and do it. But if you're one of those people who are not there yet or shy or have thin skin, I would say find an indie publisher, because it's a different layer of skin from being a publisher than being an independent published author, because the publisher sometimes takes the brunt of the things that happen to indie authors before it even gets to the author.
You have anything to offer, Michelle?
I agree. You just have to be dedicated, do your research, and if you're going to be working with helping out other people, you definitely, have to have your thick alligator skin.
Oh, yeah. Because people will have you crying about 2 pages. I had one author who I was laying her book out, and she got mad at me because she said 193 words were missing in her manuscript. And I was looking for this manuscript, like looking through, like why would I even remove that many words? And come to find out, I separate my files. And so I separated her acknowledgments from the rest of the file. And that was the whole point. But she read me the riot act until I went back, and I'm like, okay, what I did was separate the files. You didn't lose the words. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry. But I already cried and just went through everything before that happened. So, yeah, you have to have alligator skin.
Yeah. What have you found been your biggest challenge in self-publishing? I got to call you out, Michelle.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Michelle. I'm going to let you go first because M come up with you.
Biggest challenge definitely is, the budgeting and trying to get the money to do what you really want to do, because you want to, keep it professional, and you don't have necessarily what the big publishers have, and, you're trying to help other people who don't necessarily have a budget either, and just the money. And the Shonda group has helped a lot with, finding things that don't cost a lot, that you can use tools online and promotion that's not expensive, that type of thing. So that's been my biggest challenge, is just funding.
My biggest challenge that I found is working with first-time authors who don't know who don't know the process. And so the importance of how to promote your book before your book is supposed to be released. The importance of, although, yes, you have a good publisher behind you and they may be doing things on the back end, this is still your book, and you still have to show up. And you have, have some authors who they just want to write and that's it, and they just want everybody else to do it, the other lifting of it. And so just to understand that business side of you, yes, I know you're an author, you're a writer, but you're a business now. And so now your books are your money makers, and you got to get out there and shake your money maker.
I think that's the hardest thing about being an author, even if you're with a big publishing house, is that you still have a business. You know, even if somebody else is working over the money to make sure everything goes right, you still have to be on top of your job too. You know, and a lot of authors, even if it hasn't been that way in 20 years, they still believe an old school way of all I have to do is write. I don't have to tell anybody about my book. I don't have to do anything but write. And I'm like, this is 2018. It hasn't been like that since the 80s.
I know. I know.
You know, Jackie Collins was writing books, and she went on tours, and all she did was write books. Yeah, but 2018 don't work that way. Most people aren't even. It's very rare that people even go on book tours, you know. And so it always amazes me when writers say that they don't have time to promote, they don't want to do it, they don't know the business side, that it costs so much to do everything. We were talking about that earlier, about going to conferences and going to, you know, workshops and stuff. They don't give you extra money for that. That comes most of the time out of your pocket or out of your royalties, you know. And a lot of people don't take that in consideration. And then they're, you know, angry because they're not getting in front of people, you know. And I've been preaching a lot about doing local, because a lot of, you know, writers miss out on local because they're so busy trying to do national stuff. Oh, I got to go to Kansas City, or I got to go to Detroit, I got to go to Baltimore, I got to go to New York and Atlanta, you know, and what's happening in your city. You know, if you don't have a budget, you don't have funding, look at your city. That's the first thing that you want to do. They might have a huge, especially if you're an indie publisher, huge indie community that you might be missing out on because you're so busy trying to get somewhere else that you can't afford. So
exactly. And you have to saturate, because if you saturate your own area, when you do step off into a new area, those people are going to call your old area or call your city and everything and say, okay, do you know this author? You know, even with when I used to tell people, you need to find a book home, a bookstore home. And those people need to know who you are. I have a bookstore home, and every time a book come out, I'll go in there and put all my bookmarks in the bestseller books. You know, I used to do that all the time and attach my bookmarks to everything. We have one book that's called Deadly Sins, which is a political anthology, which now I know I don't do foretelling, but I'm reading that book and I'm looking at 45 like, oh, okay. But we wrote that book in 2008, and so I promise you they don't have nothing to do with each other. But when people started writing about, you know, 45 and what's going on, I would go in there and put my little bookmarks in there and give my bookmarks to the bookstore and the coffee shop and all of those. So you need to become like a local celebrity, because that helps you build your platform for when you step off into another market.
Mm-hmm. I'm learning that. I do not have a book home, so that is on my top of my list. I hope you caught that wonderful little tip right there to find you a book home, because that is so true. I have a book library. I need a book home, so I definitely need to do that. That's a good tip, very good tip. And I love the other tip about sliding your bookmark in the books. I never thought about that, but I guess. Hey.
Yeah, that's anti-shoplifting. It's anti. You're giving back. You're giving back.
Slide your book on up in there. All right. That is cool. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
What is your biggest promotion challenge, other than not having money? That's always somebody's challenge. But what is another book promotion challenge that you've had?
Okay. So for me, and so now I'm taking off the publisher's hat, because I can push my authors to do a whole bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. But for me having to read my own stuff, because I want everybody to think I'm professional and I'm businesslike, and I'm no nonsense, and I'm not crazy. But then I start to read my stuff, and people start looking at me like, oh, this woman a little sideline crazy. I'm probably getting a little scared of her. So me getting out there and just really pushing it and saying, okay, well, this is my stuff. Yes, I know I'm professional, and, I speak love and light. I do a lot of life coaching because that's a whole different area, but I only really do it for, like, my community and my church and stuff. But, they want to come and support, and then, they hear me reading my book, and I'm like, hey, oh, my gosh, she a life coach? Yeah, this is why I'm a life coach. Because I can cut you in 3,000 words. So I'm trying to do better. But just to get out there. Now, I can talk about everybody else's books. I can talk about the coloring book all day long. But when I start to talk about who I am and, why I wrote about these 4 boys that's just straight line crazy, that's scary. So that's me as an author, what's scary.
Mm-hmm. Michelle?
Well, for me, it's just finding the energy to be consistent. And even with scheduling something to go out, it's like I'm looking at the page like I still got to type the stuff in there. I'm like, I hear LaShonda, and I see her posting like, have you scheduled your promotion? Every Sunday I'm like, no, LaShonda, I have not. And I'm like, I was
calling people out.
Yeah, and pulling Canva up, and it freezes up, and I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm just like, shut it down. And especially, having a young child, and it's just like, okay, maybe next week it'll be better. And then I just go on like a rampage for a month when I got like a anniversary date or something like that. I mean, when that's over, it's just like, okay, now I got to rest, and I'm going to try to be better. Yeah, I got to work on that consistency and having stuff ready in advance to just, put out, regularly.
Yeah.
Yeah, being consistent is hard, and when you see those posts are for myself too, because I'm like, what are you doing, LaShonda, this Sunday? Have you done any scheduling and you're sitting on the couch doing nothing? So I'm talking to myself when I send those posts out to pop in my head and go do what you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes I listen and sometimes I don't. So I wanted to send out a tip that TL gave me once at an online conference I did, and she said that if you were nervous about promoting yourself, to put on a persona of somebody else.
Yes.
And when she told me this, I hadn't published my book yet. She was pushing me off the fence of being an indie publisher. She's like, write the book, LaShonda. And when she said that popped back in my head when I went to my first event. I was like, okay, that's when I started talking about the social butterfly. So I'm like, I'm Madam Butterfly, and I go out and I'm a whole different person. I'm bubbly, I'm excited, I'm ready to talk about my book and stuff. And then once I leave, I'm back to LaShonda. I'm okay. And I always remember you telling me that if you can't be yourself, be somebody else for the time while you're out. And I'm like, okay, that's what I do.
Yeah, because the great part about that is we are artists, and we can get out there and put a persona on. Somebody was asking me about personally, I had surgery, and so they were like, "Oh my God, we didn't see it on Facebook." It's like, no, T.L. James didn't have surgery. T.L. James don't have problems. She is fierce. She is always on 100 all the time. Now, her benefactor is the one that was sick, but T.L. James is off the chain. She don't have no kids. She freaky, sneaky. She do whatever she want to do until, around 7 o'clock. Then she needs to come home because her benefactor needs to go to bed. But you can be that. You can be who you want.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good way to look at it, because I think sometimes people take it so personal. My husband always says, you tell everything on that. I said, I don't tell everything. Just enough to
you don't know the half.
Right, and so don't nobody want to boring stuff. You want to know, think that, boy, she has a fantastic life. You know, I talk about grief a lot because that's the LaShonda, you know, but LaShonda, the social butterfly, you know. Sometimes I have to be all bubbly and stuff, you know. So they're like, oh, you know, I read a post once. Somebody said she was watching this girl. She said she never cusses. I never see her curse on her social media. I don't think she's real. And I was like, wow, is that how you say you're real? Because you can curse on social media, you know. But people look at different things, you know, differently. And, you know, like you said, you had surgery. That's nobody's business, but unless you want to share that, you know. And some people share a lot of stuff. And then, you know, as a writer, you have to decide what side you're going to show and what side you're not going to show, you know. And I think that sometimes people have a hard time with that because all they see is what's on social media, and they're taking it to face value. Well, okay, this is this writer, and she's either you rude or nasty on social media, which is not very good for promotion, but there's some people that's like that, you know. And so you have to, you know, what personality are you going to bring when you're doing that? And it has a lot to do with your book sales too, because I see a lot of people get on social media and show their butt, and then they come back crying like nobody's buying my book. Yeah, I'm thinking.
And it's a fine line. It's like, you know, they tell you don't put your personal business on Facebook as a person in general. Then as an author, they say tell people about yourself. So it's like, what do you put without crossing the line?
Exactly.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's hard because right now our country is going through a lot. And, you know, and so it's, you know, what parts do you talk about, what parts you don't talk about. You know, I've seen some people have said some horrible stuff about the president, and I'm going, ooh, that's something on Facebook. You know, you hate him, you know, you say that in your head and you don't put it on Facebook, you know, because
or
that was
if you really or if you really just feel that way, I think you need to be putting it in 3,000 to 5,000 words and be making profit. Don't put it out there for free. That's just me. Don't put it out there for free. Make some money off of it, and then you can change how you want it to look or something like that. But don't put it out there on social media for free. Make some money.
Yep. I like that advice. I like that.
Yeah. But one of the things
Go ahead. I think your phone went dead on us. Mm-hmm. Michelle, you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll make sure. You there?
Hello?
TL?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. You were going to say something, and then we heard nothing else.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was saying is you can build a personal persona. And so there are things about T.L. James that, you know, the benefactor likes too. So everybody knows I am the business coach who likes bacon and vodka. If you cannot afford my fees, I eat organic bacon, and I like Top Chef vodka. And anything that goes in line with that. I like it cold, not Chicago cold, but I do like it cold. I talk about certain things that are happening. And so there are certain parts where if you can remove, like, the family situations out of it, you can still share. And so that's kind of what I've been doing is people know that I'm crazy. People will let you know that I am more sane on social media than if you meet me in person. You get a whole completely different experience. And so, I mean, a whole completely different experience depending on what I'm drinking and if I'm, you know, dieting that day or if I, you know, got a girdle on, you get a completely different experience. And so people would say, oh, my God, T.L. James is just so sane and, you're positive and you're this. But, you know, if you get me in the corner and I've had a couple of Long Island iced teas, I would tell you how I really feel about 45 and what's going on. But I'm not going to type all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put it in a book, and I'm going to see if I can make, you know, $5 or $6 per book. You know, so you can build that persona to share kind of who you are, but they don't need to know all your business. Everybody know I got a student loan issue, because I'm going to pay my house off long before I pay my student loan. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's kind of like, ooh, I'm going to die. It's not that much, but I'm going to wait until I'm on Social Security before I pay them off. Mom had got to get my house and my Jaguar and all that stuff before I pay them off. And I joke about those things. But 45, if you want to know how I really feel, I need you to buy the book. It's on Amazon for 99 cents. I'm not going to tell you how to feel.
All right, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So as an indie author, what tips would you offer for building your readership? How do you get yourself out there in front of the readers?
Well, for me, I am a performer, and I started out by, I did a lot of local events and open mics, and I was in plays and things like that. And I have, my debut novel was fiction, but I'm more into poetry, and I'm known for my poetry. So I kind of just, built up an audience in person first, and then I didn't even actually have social media until after I started doing that, and people was encouraging me to get online, to build that way, to expand to other places outside of, just local. So that was huge for me, just the networking and seeing how other people do it. And once I got on social media, I started the page, Adiva's Heart fan page, and started getting on Twitter, things like that. And just, I started out by putting videos that were related to my topics are like divorce, domestic violence, self-esteem, and I started blogging about that, and also about chronic illness. So that's pretty much how I got, my readership built up, was just by blogging and mostly in-person stuff.
I like that you had multiple things that you were doing. You wasn't just picking, a lot of people put their eggs all in social media, and you were, offline, you're doing stuff, you're blogging, and so I think that's very helpful to know that you shouldn't just have one mode of introducing yourself to readers.
Right.
You have anything to say, Tio?
Yeah, and I kind of feel bad about it, but so at the university, I teach English as a second language,
Mm-hmm.
and I work with all levels, but like my high that's things that I do, and like Michelle does, I did local events. So we have Real Reader Get Lit parties and Real Readers.
Tio, can you hear us? Because your phone is silent.
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Like I said, Noah might be coming soon, so.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break,
So,
and we'll come back and do some more conversating. This episode sponsors Virtual Tea with LaShonda, Promotion Strategy Session. Are you frustrated by your promotion? It's time for a promotion audit. A promotion audit includes helping you find readers, suggestions for content to reach your readers, social media tips, promotion scheduling tips to stay consistent, and tools to improve your promotion so you can become the social butterfly you're meant to be. Check the show notes for links so you can schedule your promotion audit and get back on track to being a social butterfly. Welcome back to the SOAR/MAG's Writers Cafe. Today we are discussing indie publishing secrets, and our guest is T.L. James and Michelle Stevens, and they have been sharing some great tips on being an indie publisher. T.L. publishes other people, and Michelle has her own little company, and we've been getting some good tips from them. I want to know, what advice would you offer someone whose book is about to release? What should they be doing?
Before they release that book, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before they release that book, go and do anything. You need to count out it. If you are new author, you need to give it 120 days. If you are a recurring author, you need to give it 90 days, especially if you're going to be using social media, and start to build that momentum. Don't wait 2 days before your book is released to say, hey, y'all buy my book. That's not going to work. Because people, especially when you're using social media, that place is like noise. I normally tell people social media is like the club. And you dress up and everybody else is dressed up and everybody wants everybody's attention. And so one of the things you have to do is keep reminding people, because there's so much noise out there and we're so busy, to get your name out there to where when they see it, they're like, oh, okay, we're ready. And then release the book. But just because it's finished and you're ready to pull the trigger, that's when you really need to start promoting yourself, who you are, why they need to buy the book from you, why they need to know, love, and like you and trust you and everything. Do the tour and everything. I mean, it's kind of like when Beyonce dropped her album, she didn't just start the next day. I mean, now she can do it, start the next day touring, but she didn't drop the album and then that's it. Or when she has an album out and she needs to drop another one, she's already promoting something and getting it out there, so when the other one drops while she's on tour, it's there. You have to do the same thing. It's not something that's going to be instantaneous. You need to get on people's minds, and people need to see who you are at least 5 to 7 times before they purchase. And that works for Doritos, for Dr. Pepper, for Coke, for Fords and trucks and all of those things. People have to keep seeing it before they buy it. And you have to keep talking about it, and you have to get out there before that book is published.
I tell my clients that all the time. They think that they can promote once a week and it will get them out there. And I'm like, no. I say you have to think about commercials. Commercials will drive you crazy if you're hungry and you see that pizza commercial 3 or 4 times. Guess what? You're going to go get that pizza because you're hungry. And so you have the same way with books. You got to get in front of people constantly because you have all these other books that they have to choose from. If you promote once a week and somebody is promoting 10 times a week, guess who book is going to get picked up when they get their paycheck? They ain't thinking about your book. They thinking about that book that's been in front of them 10 times that week. And I'm glad that you said don't wait till the book comes out. Oh, my goodness, I get that all the time. Do you have a spot for me, LaShonda? My book come out tomorrow. Are you serious? I'm like, don't wait till the last minute trying to promote your book. For one thing, you're competing with everybody who's already out there. So you want to make sure your stuff gets just as much publicity as everybody else's. And when you wait till the day before it comes out, you're going to have your feelings hurt. And a lot of people do, and they're upset, and they make the listings that they thought they was going to make because nobody knew your book came out. I had a person tell me that their book was to put it on Amazon, and Amazon was going to help promote it. And I was like, who told you that one? That was her mentality. She didn't have to do any promotion because Amazon was going to do it. No.
Amazon will do it for $100 a month. Amazon will do anything you want for $100 a month.
Yeah. She just thought that was going to be part of it because she put it on Create Space. They were going to help her out,
Y'all know what, though? I'm going to have to say that I am definitely guilty because I didn't know anybody, that was doing this. And I was like, self-publishing. I only knew people who did traditional publishing. And they were trying to tell me the best they could, but I was like, okay, I learned how to put it on Amazon. And I was like, all right, boom, hit the button. Wait, crickets. Okay, what I'm supposed to do now? But fortunately, you know, I did have a good network built up. After I did get on social media, I started looking at what other authors were doing, and they were very generous with telling me their resources. And they're like, you know, do some giveaways, get some blog, guest blogging, go on Blog Talk Radio, you know, and just make you some graphics and post them and get in some of the promotional groups. And, you know, fortunately, you know, you're able to go back. You might not get that initial buzz, but you can go back and bring it back to life as many times as you want to. So that's the great thing about self-publishing is you can just post anything, anytime, and you ain't got to worry about nobody else having to, like, say, oh, I got to approve it, get it approved, or get somebody to put the money into it. It's like whatever you got, just put it into it. And definitely do your research in advance through the whole timeline and make sure you know what's coming past the button. Definitely.
Yeah.
And I like that you said that you could get the buzz started again. You know, a lot of people think, oh, their first week was horrible and they're done for. And no, you got the whole year to continue to promote this book and get it out there. Your first 3 months might not do anything, and then the next 3 months, you bam, everybody's excited about getting a copy of your book, you know. And so I think that you have to always be excited about your book when that first year you're going to talk about that book forever. My book has been out since 2015, and I still talk about it because somebody needs it and somebody doesn't have it. You know, you go, oh, I'm done after a year. You're done after a year if you're putting out some more books. If you got some more books you're putting out, then, yeah, you're going to move on to the next book. But if you just like me, just got one book, and you're not talking about your book, then you're not going to sell anything after that first year. You know, so you have to let people know that you have a book out there. And then the next book is coming. You tell them about that one. And you tell them about the first one because they're going to want something else to read while they're reading the second one. You know, so it's a never-ending story.
Yes. The one thing I would like to add to that is some people who are like truly first-time authors, like this is their first time, it's like, okay, after the first 30 days of saying you're a first-time author, you need to let that go because you're going to always be a first author for somebody. There are people who's just buying my first book, and it was out in 2007. And I'm like, oh, I haven't heard of you. Well, you know, it's about 7 billion people on the planet. So not everybody's going to hear about you at the same time. And so once that first 30 days of, hey, I'm a first-time author, you got to let that title go. It's over.
I like that 30 days. Get it over with.
Get it over with.
Yep. Michelle, you said I like that you admit that you did some things wrong when you first started, because nobody knows exactly what to do. When I first learned about self-publishing, it scared me to death. I remember a man telling us to do that in my writers group, to self-publish, take one person's book and publish it. And we looked at him like he was crazy. What? You know, and people say it costs so much. I had somebody tell me that in my writers group that it was so expensive to self-publish. And I said, have you been doing your research? And she goes, I'm going to need thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was like, no. But you're going to need a good editor. You know, you definitely need a good editor. Yeah. You have to have a good editor if you're going to do this yourself, because that's what they look at. Self-publishing has always been the redhead stepchild, and people have this image in their head that, you know, our books are inferior to the other books. But I'm telling you, I've read some amazing self-published books compared to big publisher books. So, you know, it's all about the story and it's all about the editing. And a lot of people skip the editing, so I don't recommend that at all. What would you recommend also not skipping?
I would say be careful with your editing and be careful with your cover, because you also don't want to look like a self-published. You just don't want to have that stereotype of a self-published author with your cover. You know, there are some simple covers that are out there. They got Fiverr out there. They got a lot of things that are already out there, so you don't want to make those simple mistakes. You can have a nice simple cover with just fonts and things on it. It doesn't have to necessarily have pictures. And if your picture is going to be pixelated, don't put a picture on it. So just make sure that it looks.
So hi, I've worked with you.
Hello?
Sorry about that. My computer just started talking. It's been crazy.
See, that's why I unplug Alexa. I unplug Alexa for that same reason. She ain't gonna be sending stuff about me.
Like, what the heck? What the? Okay, I might have to do some editing. Okay. Oh, wow. Michelle, did you have anything you wanted to say about
I would just say learn about the technical aspects such as, what to put in the book, the trim size, the front and back matter, your page numbers and headers and title pages and things like that. Just, to make it have a professional look, and to research the legal and business side of it, your copyright, look through the Library of Congress site, and, just look into your ISBN and decide what you want to do with, getting your own versus using the free ones with these sites that are not going to allow you to take it but so far, and just see what's best for you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, so
that's
they put the book out and nobody's buying it. What advice would you give to them to get those people into being interested in buying their book?
One of the things I would do is start collaborating and working with other authors, because books, I'd like to tell people, books are like shoes. You do not see Christian Louis Vuitton telling anybody else that nobody else can be in this shoe closet. He's not telling Jimmy Choo, hey, you might not be able to be on the same shelf, but you can be in the same shoe closet. So you need to start building relationships with other authors and do cross-promotion and kind of start serving other authors so they can serve you. I've done that in 2007, and it has been amazing. Met a lot of friends, and people to this day will promote my book, and I'll be like, oh, that's cute. Oh, wait, maybe I need to start promoting my own book. But that's one of the things that I've learned is start working with other authors and building those relationships and helping each other kind of get both of the books or anybody's books out there.
That's good advice. I'm all about building relationships, and a lot of people miss out on joint promotions because they just want to be about me. But if you think about it, if you got 10 people promoting, you're helping each other promote, you're going into 10 different readerships. And that's how you look at it. You're borrowing their readership to get introduced to, and they're borrowing your readership to get introduced to. But if you just want to be me, all you're going to have is me relationships. So, make sure that you're making contact, you're building relationships. And those are the people who invite you to events because they know about them. If it's just you, you're not going nowhere. You're not doing anything because you don't know about these stuff. And so that's one of the lessons I learned, as a promoter, as a reader, writer. As the more people I know, the more stuff I know about. When I'm by myself, I don't do anything. I don't know nothing about nothing, and I'm just at home. So.
Exactly. And sometimes it might be an author who has to do a book release or something, and it's scary going out there by yourself. But if you can tag team with other authors, then it makes it more inviting, and, it reduces some of that pressure. And just because, you're inviting other authors and now you worry, they might sell a book or they might take my readers. No, I think it's kind of like you need to give your readers a little bit more credit than that. You really need to respect your readers more. when we used to have our Get Lit parties right after any kind of literary events, and it was a party just to meet the authors. Your books can be there, that's all great, but you were there hanging, speaking with the author, touch and feel, so kind of making the authors feel VIP, even though we were indie authors. And what we found out was, nobody needed to sell books that day. But if you build a real good relationship, a connection with your readers, then your book sales went up literally a day after for about 2 or 3 weeks, because they kept talking about the party, they kept talking about hanging out with you and all of those things. And so you kind of have to think outside the box to build that relationship with readers and other authors. And so now you stand on people's minds.
Good. That's good. You have anything to say, Michelle?
Well, definitely collaboration and networking. That's when my things started to pick up, was when I started joining groups. And, people do like Michelle Ramsey, they'll put other people on their blog, a month-long promotion and things like that. That was really when I started connecting more with readers. And also contacting book clubs, online or in person, is a big, boost. And just basically looking for events to be a part of, whether it's online or in person, is definitely, the best way to get out there and be on people's minds.
All right. Speaking of events, do you have any advice on someone who's going to do their first event?
I would say just look at your branding, if you're in person, you want to have your table neat and you want to have it where it's going to stand out and be inviting, and just basically, just be like friendly. Don't wear high heels because you better work. I did that one time, and my first in-person little author event, and I was like, never again. So be comfortable and be involved.
Good tip. You have anything to say, Kia?
So because I have a severe issue with reading my book out, I actually got some college kids who are drama kids, or, they took theater. I had them come in, and they would read for me. And so then that kind of helped me reduce some of my frustration. And I could answer the questions and talk about the characters. I just couldn't read the actual, because, you're sitting here and you're reading something that's crazy, and in your mind you're going, did I really write this? And then you start to, kind of have an issue with, I think I am really crazy. I might need to go through some therapy in front of people. And so it's kind of like that's one of the things that I did. I definitely bring some flip-flops if you think you're going to wear heels, or some socks. I did that too one time. And you just need to go there to have fun. It's not going to be a perfect situation. But if you go in there to have fun and just meet people, you can have a really good time.
I like that, to have fun. I think we get so caught up in selling books that, we miss out on the fun stuff. Enjoy the moment. I tell myself all the time, enjoy the moment, because you dreamed of doing events, and now you're doing them, and you're so busy trying to sell a book that you don't realize that you're living your dream. So
yeah,
definitely enjoy the moment. All right. Well, this has been excellent. I have a couple of technical difficulties, but we moved right along with it. Any last-minute advice you want to give, ladies?
No, and I would say self-publishing can be very daunting, but if you put your mind to it and stick around, before you know it, you'll be an expert. So don't quit.
Don't quit. And my advice would be, my first real advice is not only not wear high heels, but don't wear a girdle either. One of those little hold them in waist bands, don't wear that. I know men don't have any problem, but don't wear that. The other part that I would say is that having fun, because you are living your dream, you can't reiterate that. And when you do something, celebrate it. You know, you put on a release party and 9 people showed up. The fact that you went through all of that to put on a release party, that needs to be celebrated. Just celebrate it. And then find out what worked, what didn't work, and what you need to do later. And the one thing I like that Michelle said about being indie authors, you can have a re-release, and it could be the same book. You know, oh, this one's new and improved. Oh, you have extra chapters. Well, if nobody bought the first book, how do they know extra chapters were added to the book that you have? And so that's one of the ones that I really would do. I love that. My last tips. No girdle.
Those are great tips. Great tips. I love that. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for that. This is good. Very good. I hope that everybody wrote down some good tips for tonight. How can we get in contact with you?
Well, again, I'm Michelle Lynn Stevens. I'm at MichelleLynnStevens.com. You can find me on Goodreads, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Michelle Lynn Stevens. That's STEPHENS. And I am on Facebook, Twitter, and that is at A Diva's Heart. Hope to see you there.
So for me, I'm kind of like Michelle. Michelle, we off the chain with that. Everything is like one little piece. You can find me on Instagram, social media, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. Everything is T.L. James. My website is tljames.mba. If you do the .com, you're going to get a construction site in Louisiana. You don't want that one. But it's tljames.mba. And everything else is T.L. James. Yes, I'm a woman who keeps changing her hair, but the smile is still the same.
I would like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Virtual Tea with LaShonda, Promotion Strategy Sessions. Check the link in the show notes to order your promotion audit. I want to thank our guests for being a part of the SORMAG Writers Cafe. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking time to listen to the podcast. I have 3 requests for you. 1, subscribe to the platform you're listening to so you don't miss an episode. 2, please feel free to write a review and let me know what you think of this episode. And 3, please share the podcast with your community. If you have a topic you want us to discuss on the cafe or would like to be a sponsor of an episode, send to onesormag@gmail.com. This is LaShonda Hoffman, and I will see you on the next.